everybody. It's Tom Antion here, and this is my third session. This is day 3 of the Screw the Commute Summit. Hope you didn't miss my first 2 sessions and all the other great sessions. My last session was email marketing masterclass. Lots of details on that. My first session was a 3-prong attack on a 7-figure income. It's how I've broken down this whole online marketing thing to make it understandable for the mere mortal. All right. Now, today, we're going to talk about my podcasting endeavors, both from the perspective of guesting, which you can start immediately, and having your own podcast. It takes a little bit more effort, but the things that you can do because of it are just crazy. The title here is How Podcasting Got Me Invited to the White House and Made Money from the First Episode. And that's what we're going to talk about today. Now, follow me on TikTok. It's going crazy for me. I have some viral videos going into the 500,000 and more marks. But it's tiktok.com/digital, / @ sign. It's just like an email address. You don't see that often in URLs, but it's tiktok.com / @ digital multi-millionaire. And please comment and save. And I've got a couple hundred short video training videos there for you. All right, let's see what else we got here. Tomorrow is going to be, my session is going to be Pro Speaking Mastermind. All right. And a lot of people have been asking me about this poster behind me. All right. I'll talk more about that on the last session where I talk about becoming a multi-millionaire guy or girl next door. That's on day 5. And basically, it's my dad taught me to overcome obstacles. And it's a really cool story. You want to hear that on day 5. Okay, let's get into it. Why did I get into podcasting? Well, I poo-pooed it for years because everybody was just talking to hear themselves talk and nobody was making any money. And I said, no, I don't want to waste time on that. I don't have to, stroke my ego just to be on the airwaves. So I didn't get into it. When I got into it, I think about 4 years ago, is when I found out that new cars were able to play podcasts from the dashboard for free. And I said, well, there's a couple 100 million more places that I can be heard. And the actual podcasting has exceeded XM radio listenership when you have to pay for XM radio. So that's one reason. And the other reason is all these in-home devices like the Amazon Echo and the Google Assistant. That means there's a billion more. I mean, there's a billion of those installed as I record this, and it's increasing all the time. So that's you can go to your Amazon Echo and say, hey, play Screw the Commute podcast. And boom, I start playing in your house. All right. So that's when I got into it. Now, a little later, if you stick to the end, I'm going to tell you how I got invited to the White House because of podcasting, and also how you can get major agencies that charge a fortune for their clients to work for you for free. I love this. They don't like it so well, but they do it because it helps them too. So I'll give you that tip. And there's a bunch of other cool Facebook hacks and things I'm going to be talking about today. Okay. So the first part of this is going to be 2 parts: how to be a great guest. And the second part will be how to be a great podcaster. Okay. So, but you can start this great guesting immediately. All right. So, and also, you better take notes. There's loads and loads of stuff I'm going to lay on you today. And one of the things, if you'd like to hear a podcast about how to be a great guest, then you listen to screwthecommute.com /211, 211. That's how to be a great guest. Okay. So I'm breaking this down to what you do way before you become a guest, and then before you become a guest, and just before you're on, and just after you're on. All right, so these are the sections. So the first part is way before. What do you have to do to really make a real, just hit it hard and be a great guest? I didn't say good guest, right? I didn't say an okay guest. I said a great guest that gets invited back. I've been invited back as many as 13 times. I've been on some of the biggest podcasts in the world and invited back twice, which they hardly ever do anybody twice. And I was even in their classic episodes. So this is what it takes to be a great guest. And not because I'm Mr. Perfect, it's because I do the things necessary to impress the heck out of their audience and the host, okay, or the producer if it's a bigger show. Okay, so way before, I'm using notes here because I always lay it on you. This is a master class. This isn't just an interview where if on an interview, I don't do this. All right, but on master classes where I want you to get this stuff, I work from notes so I don't forget it. Okay, so the first thing is you got to have a really good microphone and a good environment to record in or to talk in to other podcasters or when you're being interviewed. Now, there's loads, I have loads of training information on this, but basically you don't want an echoey room. You want a dynamic microphone, not a condenser microphone. These are types of microphones. See, a condenser microphone is super sensitive and you think, oh, that's really good. No, it's not for most home offices or any kind of office environment. They're great if you are in a controlled environment like a soundproof sound booth, but not for home stuff. It just picks up all kinds of background stuff that you don't want on your recording. So get a dynamic microphone. And one of the ones we recommend that's fairly cheap is an ATT 2100 or 2100X. It's both USB and it has the professional 3-prong also. So it's very versatile. This is a $400 microphone, a Shure SM7B, and it's really kind of the standard in the industry. This is like a Joe Rogan kind of thing. I'd love to have his success. Okay, so get a good microphone and good recording environment. Make sure your chair doesn't squeak. Make sure you're lit well if it's a video podcast. I have 2 softbox lights here. Now with glasses, you got to mess with it a little bit because if I just use the light banging off my computer screen, my lenses, all you see is like alien stuff here. So the lights that I have are soft boxes, they're called, and one's a ring light, but they're way high, hitting at an angle, and then the angle that the light hits bounces the light down away from the camera. If they're right at your eye level, it bounces the light right back into the lens. You don't want that. So check all that stuff out ahead of time. And then hydrate. You keep yourself hydrated. I got to tell you, I'm having trouble with that myself in the last couple of days. I've been talking so much, it's hard to stay hydrated. But the thing about hydration, especially when I teach my professional speakers, is you can't hydrate the day of. All you'll be doing is peeing all the time. You got to stay hydrated at least the day before. You should stay hydrated heavily whenever possible. But if you're doing a big interview, you want to hydrate the day before. Okay. And then here's some things that can make you a better guest. And they take some practice, and I still struggle with some of them. Try to improve your diction. Make sure you're very clear when you're talking into a mic, because it has to go through the mic, go through the internet, go through the rest of the world, get edited, copied, compressed. And so the more clear you can be in the start, the better off you're going to sound on the end. And then here's some things that'll get you. Lip smacks. These drive me crazy when I'm editing a guest. I get so sick of them, unless they're really bad, I quit editing them out because it just takes me too much time. But that's something like this. So use lipstick, lip balm, whatever, stay hydrated, keep, even take it. I'd rather have you take a drink of water than and keep your mouth, keep hydrated and keep everything moist than hearing this all day long. Okay, that's a lot of trouble to edit out. Ums and ahs, this is the old Toastmaster thing. I do it all the time, but the thing is the more you recognize you're doing it, the less and less you'll do it. And it just makes you sound bad on the interview, and it's hard to edit out. you can do it. I did an right there. See, but it's okay as long as you keep going and it's just incidental. But if you're that ain't gonna fly. All right. Uh, Another thing you can work on is called inaudible breaths. For a long time, I was having to edit out breaths in between when I'm talking. And it would be, hey, what do you say? Screw the commute. And all those breaths, you don't notice them when you're doing them, but they sound terrible on the recording and it takes forever to edit them out. So try to work on inaudible breaths. You can do it. Check on some voice coaching YouTube videos or something, but you improve all that stuff, you sound better, and people invite you back more when you sound great. And of course, you still have to have good information and all that. But if you reduce all of that kind of stuff that bothers the listener, then you're going to sound better. The host is going to have you back. It's going to take less editing. You're going to be easier to deal with. If they have to edit an extra hour because of you, they're not going to invite you back. Okay, so this is way before your interview. All right, now before your interview, well, you fill out all the stuff the host wants. They usually give you an online form. I just ask for certain things to be emailed to me, but you do it. You fill it all out, make sure they have what they need. Now, you can give questions to the host. Now, they won't necessarily use them, but it does make you look professional. But don't say, here's the questions you must ask. No, they're going to throw you out. You say, here's some suggested questions. If you'd like to use them, great. Now, if you really want to look like a pro, now this is not as critical on podcast guesting as it is on radio. But if you put the suggested questions and next to it, you put the amount of time it takes to answer, oh my God, you're going to look like a pro. They're going to say, oh, this person knows what they're doing, especially the radio people, because they might have a hard break coming up in 60 seconds. They know they're going to commercial. And there's a question here that says something that takes 45 seconds to answer. So they ask the question, you take 45 seconds to answer, they hit their break on the mark and they think you're the second coming. You're just a great guest because of that. So that's putting the time it takes to answer the question. Now, it doesn't mean you shouldn't have different lengths of time. When you have unlimited time, I usually teach people to have 3 different lengths. A 10-second version of a story, a minute-long version, and a 3-minute version, or something like that. So when your time varies, you're not sweating it and talking faster, because that looks stupid too. So have different lengths, but have your average length to answer, especially for radio, and they'll love you. Okay, so here's another thing hardly anybody does, is read reviews of the podcast you're going to be on to see what people like about it and what they don't like about it. And then do the things that they like about that particular podcast. All right. And the guest or the host will get better reviews from people that never heard of you and like you better and more likely to invite you back. Okay. You should know if it's audio only or video and audio, because you might kill yourself on a particular podcast to do your hair and makeup, and I don't, but you might. And then it's audio, and you just wasted all that time. I mean, that doesn't affect them so much, but it's terrible for you to waste all that time gussying up, and then it's audio only. Now, for me, I usually say hello when I have a guest on video, and then I switch the video off for extra bandwidth, so we get a great quality audio. And so you still might want to gussy up at least a little bit, but I don't really care. But you might have a guest or a host that does, or you yourself might always want to be seen perfect. So good for you. But anyway, you need to know if it's audio or audio and video. And especially if it's video, you need to have your lights and everything set up and your glare taken apart on the camera. Now, here's another thing with glasses I forgot to tell you before, is sometimes you just can't help where the lighting is. You can tip the temples up on your glasses, and it's not very noticeable, especially if you have long hair or if you don't turn your head sideways a lot. But this way, instead of the glasses, the light hitting the glasses and bouncing right into the camera, you can't move the light, let's say, so you move the glasses. So it hits the glasses straight here, but bounces down away from the camera, and that gets rid of the glare. So that's a great tip for TV or anything on video if you wear glasses. Okay. Affiliate link for the host. So sometimes I get invited back because the show made money for them, because I made an affiliate link for the host. So if I'm on their show and they go over to my site to get a freebie or something, then it can be tracked to the host, and the host makes money because of me. Well, guess what? So many podcasters are struggling to make money. And I'm going to tell you how to be profitable from day one, by the way, in the second half today. But if they're making money, you just went above all the other, most of the other guests that approach them, because if they can make money off. So provide affiliate links. Now, you can write an intro to customize for the show. So you can, you should have listened to several shows ahead of time that you're going to be on. And then your opening of what you plan on saying in the beginning is customized to their audience. So if I know I'm talking to an accountant that's got a bunch of business people that use them for accounting services, and we're talking about taxes or something, my intro is not going to be about protection dogs or fatso tennis or these other things that I got going. It's going to be addressed to their audience, because if somebody starts listening to a podcast and hears that it's not about them, they're going to leave or leave a bad review. So customize your intro to the show. And you got to listen to several episodes. Now, one thing you can do is, a lot of podcast players have a fast forwarding thing. So once I hear their beginning intro and it's the same every time, I can skip that. And then I can, once they start interviewing somebody or talking, I can put it on 1.5 times speed or 2 times speed, and then get through it in a hurry, because I do a lot of interviews and I can't listen to everybody's show word for word in real time. But this is a way to get it, and because what I don't want to do is mispronounce the host's name. All right. And I don't want to be caught with some segment that I should have known about, that since I didn't listen to any episodes, I didn't know about it. And then I'm just, trying to wing it when they ask a certain bunch of questions. So don't do that. Listen to the show. Okay. Let's see. Note any regular segments of the show. So if they, some shows have certain segments that they say, okay, we're going to talk about this here, then we're going to talk about your history, then we're going to talk about your family lifestyle, whatever. You should know all the segments and be ready for them. Then leave a rating and review and let them know about it. This is even before you're on. They will love you if you come on and say, oh yeah, I listened to a couple episodes. I love this episode on so-and-so, and I left a rating and review for you. Right off the bat, they love you. All right. Because hardly anybody does that for them. Most of the guests just come on trying to suck off of their audience and do nothing, not a damn thing for the host and the show. So you come in and do that, they are going to love you. Okay. All right. And you promote the show. Now, here's the thing. At my level, because I do so many shows, I can't really guarantee people that I'm going to blast it out on my email list, because I would be saying a lot of the same things on all the shows, and the people on my email list would unsubscribe because they're sick of hearing about it. All right. But especially when you're on coming up and start new at this, you promote the heck out of the show for that host, and then you'll get more listens on that show that you were on, and the host will see that, and you tell them what you were doing, and they love you for it. Tag them in all the social media and all that. All right. And any comments you get about being on the show from your social media or email or whatever, pass them on to the host. That's showing the host that, hey, you're getting what you did is causing engagement for their show, and they'll love you. Now, what I do is, even if it's a video, if it's an audio, I don't have to do this. But if it's a video interview, I still want to have some notes. Now, what you can do is tape them up on your monitor right close to where the webcam is, see? And of course, you want to keep seeing the host for the host reactions, but on the other side of the screen, tape it up. Nobody can see, and you're looking totally into the webcam, but your notes are right next to it, your bullet points. Now, I wouldn't make written notes because it sounds stupid when you're trying to read stuff, but bullet points. And then I still, even if it's a video interview, have a tablet here and a pen handy, and I'll say, oh, the host just said this. I should tell them this story. Now I'll make a little note to myself, and then instead of doing a dog and pony show, I'm right there with them and responding back and forth with the host. It makes a great interview. Okay, let's see. Another thing I was just mentioned about looking at the camera, you got to force yourself to look at the camera. You should be doing this in all your Zoom or all your Skype or whatever the heck you're using, interviews and training sessions or whatever. See, because it's too normal to try to look at the face of the host. But here's the difference. I'm looking right into the webcam right now. But if I was interviewing you or you were interviewing me and I'm looking down like this, now I'm not connecting with you. I'm looking shady, like there's something more important over here than up here. All right. You've got to force yourself to do this, because it's okay to just glance at the interviewer to see their reaction to stuff. And also, I don't look at it all the time. I'm just loosey-goosey over here. And I might look at my notes. I'd say, hey, let me get a drink of water here. Hold on. So it's okay to do all that stuff. But when you're addressing the person, look into the darn webcam, not onto the screen. That's a big, big point. Okay. And know something about the host. I've had such great interviews because I search out and Google the host, and I find out where they went to school and what jobs that they've had, and a lot of times I can find their interests, if they have dogs or cats or whatever. And the host just cannot believe how prepared I am for them, and they just love it, especially if you bring up their animals or their family. Or I heard you got married at Bass Pro Shoppers. I don't know, some people have done that, but so they just love you for that kind of stuff, as long as it's public information. If it's something they're embarrassed about that you had to dig out with a private detective, no, I wouldn't go there. But if it's stuff they put on their about section of their website or put in their LinkedIn profile, they're proud of it. All right, so use it. Let's see. Oh, this is a really important one. Listening to a previous episode. Remember, this is all still before the interview, folks. When listening to a previous episode, how much did the host talk compared to the guest? See, you might run into a host that their only reason they're doing this because their ego want to show how smart they are, and the guest is just incidental. Or you might find somebody that's really insightful and wants to hear what the guest has to say and gives them all kinds of time to talk. So you want to know if that host is there because of themselves. Well, you got to back off and give them a chance to shine. I mean, that's just the breaks. But if they're wanting to hear from you, you better be ready to talk more. All right. But you need to know this ahead of time, not get surprised because you had all this stuff you wanted to say, and you got like 1 minute out of 60 minutes to say anything. That can happen. So know how much the host is talking. All right, now, so now we moved from way before to now we're doing just before. All right. So go to the bathroom, like, because you've been hydrating. Be careful of what you drink and eat before the interview, even well before the interview. And this is something you have to get to know yourself about. In general, you avoid carbonated beverages because they cause you to burp. Avoid dairy products and chocolate. They coat your throat and make you clear your throat all the time. I don't know what's right for you. I know one time somebody was making me dinner and it was getting too close, and it was getting close to the interview time. Actually, I was interviewing somebody else, I think, and whatever that they had, it was great, and I couldn't stop for, I want to dig into that, so I did, and then I was fighting burping the whole time. All right, so, and I forget what that was, but I don't eat anything close to an interview nowadays. All right, so be careful about that. Test it out on yourself. Now, it's nice to have a mute button because the host might be going off, run at the mouth. And here's an example. If you were the host and you're running off on a story and I had to clear my throat, now you didn't hear any of that, right? Because I muted myself while the host was talking. And I could have done it even looking at the camera. I'll do it again. See, so all the focus is on the host who's talking, and I didn't make a big stink. Somebody I keep, even when you turn these things off, they still buzz at you. I hardly ever pick up anymore because it's all robocalls. Uh, so let's see. So anyway, have a mute button is very handy. Okay, turn off your phone, which I did, but it's still even vibrating at me on this table. Now, your air conditioning and heat, they make noise, usually. So if you know it's going to be an interview and it's summertime, blast yourself, get freezing in your place, and then turn the thing off during the interview. Vice versa in the winter. Burn yourself up and then turn it off until the interview's over. That way you don't have all that noise in the background that's going to irritate the heck out of the host. All right, they do make silent fans. If you sweat a lot, they're more expensive than a regular fan. I have a little $5 flea market or yard sale fan over here. I just put it on low in the summer, and it doesn't make enough noise that gets on any recordings, but then it just keeps air flowing over me so that I don't get hot and sweat too much. Okay, let's see. Now your dogs and cats, you can either make them part of the show. Like I tell people right up front. Now, if it's a super important interview, I'll put the dogs up in a complete different part of the house. But if it's a regular one, I just said, hey, if the dogs bark, I'll either joke about it or I can edit it out. That's if I'm doing the podcast. But if it's another podcast for somebody else, I usually put the dogs away. That way, if somebody comes at the door, then they won't hear it. And speaking of the door, you should have a sign that you can paste on your door that says, do not ring bell, I'm recording. Something like that. Okay, let's see what else. Tape up your notes. Be on time or slightly early. Now, this is something that you can get in a little trouble if you're too early, which my motto is if you're not early, you're late. But one time I came into a Zoom interview, and 10 minutes before I log in, and I hear people talking, and then I hear the host say, Tom, you're not on yet. Get out of here. So that host had not set his Zoom up to force me to be in a waiting room before he admitted. Now you can't, you should ask the host when you're doing your pre interview or, even email back and forth. Hey, you want me to be on right on the dot, or you want me to come in a little bit early? And then they'll tell you, because that really made an awkward situation there. Okay, next thing. All right, that was just before. So now we're in the interview after all of this. See, I'm telling you, this is how you be a great guest, not an okay, okay, that was all right guest. No, we want you to be great. All right. So during the interview, use the host's name. They love to hear their own name. And it proves that you're on the ball. And guess what? I do so many interviews, I write their name on a piece of paper because, and the name of the show too, because I've done as many 5, 6, 7 in a day. Wow, you forget what you said to somebody and who they are or what show you're on. So make sure you put notes right in front of you of the host name and what show you're on. All right. When you're starting out, if you're only on one show in a month, well, great. You can probably remember, but I still don't take a chance. I put the host name and the name of the show. There we go. And be conversational. Do not read. I actually had a guest. I could tell in 2 seconds they were reading their answer. I stopped the recording. I said, hey, we can't go like this. You just got to talk to me. Throw those notes away. I don't, we're going to have a great show or we're going to have no show because I'm not going to put something like this on the air that you're just reading to me. No. So they got their, their lesson there. Laugh and have fun. All shows, no matter what the topic, usually has an entertainment value to it. I mean, I've heard even in speaking some of the most horrendous topics, but they had some form of what they call comic relief. Even Shakespeare had comic relief in his tragedies because the human mind can only stand so much downer stuff before it just tunes out. So whatever your topic is, make sure you're able to put some laughs and enjoyment into it. That can be tough. I teach speakers how to do that in my professional speaking thing. We're going to do pro speaking tomorrow. All right. Now, no dead air. No dead air. That means you can't just stop and say, well, let me think about that for a while and then just sit there for 10 seconds. That is the kiss of death on podcasts and radio. No dead air. Have good stories ready. And like I said, have more than one version, depending on how much time you have. If it's think about this. If you had a really impactful 4-minute story that you tell when you do speaking engagements, and you're on a 3-minute interview on a rock station, well, the interview's over before you even got halfway done with the story. I mean, you can't do that. You've got to be ready for the length of time. And I could tell that same story, then I have several of them like that in 10 seconds. All right, it gets the gist of it in, but it's not going to be like the longer version. So be ready with good stories with several versions and jot notes during the show of things that you want to respond to what the host said. Now, there's times, I do it all the time, I address the listeners directly. So I might be talking to the host and I'd say, and you listeners out there, I want you to really write this down. This is going to change the game for you online if you do what I'm telling you right now. Okay, so get your pencils up. See, so I'm bypassing the host and talking directly to the listeners because they're the most important part of the show. All right, so you don't want to just ignore them and act like they don't exist. And some of them, these live things you do, have chats. And you say, go ahead and put in the chat what you think about this. Do you think it's A or B or whatever your engagement techniques are? All right, so don't be afraid to do that. And don't make the host look bad. If it's something that that they say that you totally think is bullshit, all right, here we go. Watch this. I just cleared my throat. Then you can't just say, well, you're full of it. You got to say something like this. I mean, now, unless the nature of the show is a beat each other up, then there are some shows like that. But in most cases, I'd say something like this. Well, yeah, some people have had success with that method, but I really haven't. I've done this method, and most of my students use this method. So you don't want to just say, no, that's BS. Do it this way, because you'll never get invited back. Let's see. And you can't count on that they're going to use your questions. So you got to be ready for anything. And you'll get that with experience the more you do this. And one of the things I teach in pro speaking is called bits, chunks, and series. This is how pro speakers can go up there and talk for an hour and with no notes. And the way it is they break little pieces of their content into bits or chunks or series. Those are synonyms. And they practice them 30 to 50 times out loud. You can't just do it in your head because your lips don't always go where your mind is telling it. You do it out loud while you're doing something else. And you could be driving, you could be in the shower, doing your hair, whatever. But the reason we teach it this way is because there's distractions when you're on stage or you're trying to do a podcast or radio interview or TV interview. So you want to do it when there's distractions. You want your mouth to go where your head is telling it because of muscle lip memory, I guess you call it. And after, and some people say, well, I'll just do it 10 times. Well, here's the crazy thing. If you memorize or practice something just 10 times, it sounds memorized. When you hit that 30 to 50 time mark where you can just spit it out, and don't do it word for word, I might add. That's another thing that kills a lot of Toastmasters. If they forget one of the words, it's over with. That's dead air to the max. All right. So once you hit that 30 to 50 times, it becomes magically conversational. It just flows right out of you. And that kind of stuff, it comes through on the radio and podcasts and TV that you're just cool. You know your stuff and it's just going to come out. But a lot of it's practiced that with that method ahead of time. All right. So you made it through the interview. After the interview, well, you find out when it goes live and you promote it for the host, and then you prove it to them. You tag them in all the places you promoted. Now you can write thank you notes. And I hate the fake thank you notes where it comes in a card where it's got a handwriting font and it's some company that just sends it to me. You know what? I don't even open them. I throw them right in the garbage. It's the least personal way to be personal I ever saw in my life. I don't even open them. But I would just rather have an email thanking me for the show. That's fine with me because that's normal. But faking something personal is fake to me. So don't do that. Now, I got some people that send me a brownie when they're on my show. They send me brownies. They send handwritten notes. That's clearly a pen in somebody's hand, not a writing font that they just typed. No, they wrote me a handwritten note, and they sent me some brownies or some other thing that I probably shouldn't eat. But that's real. That's a real personal thank you. So that's fine. And you can send them your review. Like this is something you could have done earlier in that first step. You could send them the text of your review because sometimes reviews don't show up for a couple of days. In fact, many times they don't. So this is also proof that you left a review and they can find it and see it online when it comes live. Let's see. Then in several months, follow up again, because if you were really good or great, like I'm teaching you to be, they're probably likely to have you back. See, because they're always looking for great guests, and a lot of guests suck. So when they get a good one, they probably want to have you back. Also, the things that we're doing here after the interview probably will get you referrals to other shows because a lot of podcast hosts know each other. And so, he said, so-and-so, Sally was really great. You got to have her. And so that puts you at the top of the list at the next show. So if you've done all this great stuff. Let's see. Yeah, it said tag the host in promo efforts. And when you come back for repeat appearances, try to bring new stuff so that it's not an exact duplicate of the last show unless they ask you, hey, tell that story about when you went to Mexico, or, so they might want you to repeat certain stuff, but make sure you have some new stuff so they feel like, oh, every time I have Tom back, I hear something new. My audience hears something new, see? And send your affiliate commissions. If you get any sales from them, send them the money, and whoa, that's the pinnacle when they get money because you were on the show. And this is really powerful, having an affiliate program or at least a referral program. I know that I spoke, I saved an organization out in Los Angeles from going bankrupt. And the way I did it was I did a big fundraiser where I made money and they made money. And the funny thing is, is that they have a mandate in their bylaws that says we only have a speaker one time. Okay. I've been there 5 times, right? Because every time I came, they made money. See, so this could really open doors for you when you don't get greedy and you. I say grease their palms. That sounds kind of bad, but that's what you're doing. You're saying, hey, I'm way above these other people. I'm going to take care of you. Not only do a good job for your audience, I'm going to take care of you financially for having me on your show. So that puts you way above, but you have to have a tracking mechanism. Okay, that's how to be a great podcast guest. All right, episode 211 of Screw the Commute. So it's screwthecommute.com/211 if you'd like to hear a podcast about that. And don't forget, you can get the videos of this whole summit at some discounted price until it's over. So make sure you grab that. There's links all over the place for that somewhere. Okay, now let's switch gears on being a great podcast host and how it opens the doors for you. It's got me invited to the White House. I got a super Facebook hack for you that's just amazing. And I got it gets me extremely expensive podcast booking agencies to work for me for free. I love that. They don't, but I do. Okay, so now this there's a podcast you might want to listen to for this, screwthecommute.com/629, how to be a great interviewer. And one of these days, I'm going to get my friend Judy Jernid to do an update on her perspective of being a great interviewer. So keep, subscribe to the podcast. So when I get her on there, she'll do an episode for you. Okay. So one of the things about having your own podcast is you can get to people that you normally couldn't get to, because a lot of the people you've heard of and like to interview are publicity hounds. They want their name out there. And so, especially in the pandemic, you could get to anybody because they're all sitting at home and they were doing, interviews like crazy. And still, it's so easy to do for those people. Yeah, they don't want to have to get a limo and drive to the studio and get all dressed up and go in there, and they could do it from home, and it's very common nowadays. So you can get to people you couldn't get to. Now, I'm going to go ahead and give you one of the tips right now to get the agencies working for you for free. I love this because some of them, I had one guy tell me he paid $11,000 for 50 interviews, but they don't guarantee that the shows are going to be great shows. It could be a beginner show with 2 listeners, 1 cow in the middle of Iowa or something. I don't know. So this is how I do it. So when you have a podcast, it's going to be listed all over the place, and these podcast agency representatives are going to see that. And so they are going to look at the show and they're going to suggest a guest from the people that have paid them. So somebody's in their agency, they're watching, they see your podcast, and they're going to say, hey, Tom, this person would be great for Screw the Commute. They did this, that, and the other. And yeah, I get tired of looking at it half time. And so I have a piece of boilerplate text that I just copy and paste, and I return the email. All right. And it says, hey, thanks for, contacting me. I get a lot of requests for guests. We're according to Listen Notes, we're in the top 1% of entrepreneurial podcasts with over 700 episodes. And then I say, so this is the key, folks. All right. We're currently only booking reciprocal interviews. And then I say, in other words, I.E. If I have your guest on my show, they have me on their show, or you can have some other one of your people have me on their show. I don't care, right? But we're making a deal here. I'll have your guest on my show, and you get me on one of their shows or somebody else's show. so they're obligated because this person paid them a lot of money to get them on shows, that they say, okay, no problem. And I also say, as long as it makes sense. I don't want to be on a show that doesn't make sense for me. I'll sound stupid, and they'll get bad reviews. No, I shouldn't be there. But if it makes sense, then yeah, I'll have them on my show. And if it makes sense for me to be on their show, beautiful. We make deals like that. So I get them working for me for free. That's the method. Now, I also give them a second option. See, I have this program that's a scholarship fund for persons with disabilities. So I say, and if it doesn't make sense for us to do trade interviews, they can also go to the top of the list by contributing at least $300 to my scholarship fund for persons with disabilities. So beautiful. I also have a course on this that includes a feature interview on my podcast for about is $297. All right, I'll have a link somewhere for it. So this is how you get agencies working for you for free. Now you should put your credentials in there to make it enticing for them to want to make a deal, because they don't know if you're a good guest or not. So I put my creds in there also in the boilerplate, and it works like a charm. I get loads of reciprocal interviews that way. All right. Now, don't forget, I'm going to tell you how I got invited to the White House because of a podcast. All right. So when you're having a podcast, you have to have good graphics. See, I had a guy working for me for 12 years that was a professional Photoshop guy that worked for catalog companies and just knows it back and forth. It took us 3 tries to get my graphic approved by Apple. That's the big kahuna. You want your square graphic approved for your podcast approved by Apple. So you got to have good graphics, and they'll tell you exactly the dimensions and everything else. But it was really frustrating to have to go back 3 times to get approved. Now, here's the method I used when I started a podcast. I got 50 episodes in the can, they say. That's an old Hollywood term, I guess, before I released it. Now, most people won't suggest that. They'll say have 3, 4, 5 episodes ready to go. But here was my method, and it worked great. The idea is that I didn't want to be busy trying to make episodes during that beginning period of my podcast, because I was going on a podcast tour of me being a guest. In other words, the whole first part of this, be a great guest. I was going to be a guest on other people's podcasts to promote my new podcast. So I spent that whole couple months doing podcast guesting while my podcast had just been released, but I didn't have to worry about recording for me. My 50 episodes were ready to go. That was going to last me several months. So that's how I kicked off my podcast, going on a podcast tour, which I basically sat on my butt in this chair and did interviews all over the place. And the thing about doing interviews to help your podcast is the people listening to podcasts know how to listen to podcasts, and they like podcasts. And so if you do a good job on your interview, they come over and subscribe to your podcast. All right. So that was a podcast tour. Now, also, I created a launch team for my podcast. And this is where you get your best friends in the world, your family, everybody on earth, all your followers, your email list people. And you say, I need to create a launch team for my new podcast. Would you contribute? And you can give them freebies, free products, the downloads, and some of them will just do it because they like you. And so on the day the podcast went live, everybody promoted it. They agreed to promote it to their social media, and it went right to in the top 120, I think, in Apple's new releases. I forget what it's called now. It's been about 4 years now. So a launch team is great. And then you can also do, I heard recently people are doing relaunch teams. In other words, like, I've got episode 700 coming up pretty soon. Maybe I'll do it for that, or maybe episode 800. I don't know. But you get a bunch of people that love you together, and there'll be more of them now because you've got so many episodes that, and you've got subscribers at this point. So make a relaunch of your podcast if you already have one, and that'll get another big burst for you. Now, hosting your podcast, don't do one of these freebies that you get on your telephone and you can have a podcast. Yeah, well, you can do that. But if you want to look like a schlub that's, nobody's going to care or listen because it sounds terrible and it's, just you look like you're hokey, yeah, don't do it. I'm not going to teach you to do that kind of stuff. You got to get hosting for your podcast because audio files are much bigger than text files. And if you tried to load up all your audio podcasts on your shared hosting of your website, you could do it, but it's not designed for that. And it's going to stutter. It's going to not play. If you did get a burst of people listening, it would just crash. You'll probably get an enormous bill from your host that says you went overage, even if they claim unlimited. It's never really unlimited. And you're going to look stupid because if people can't listen to it properly, they're not going to unsubscribe or leave. So and to do this correctly is so dirt cheap. I use Libsyn, Libsyn. It's the granddaddy of all podcast hosting services. And they're designed for this. So, and it cost me $20 a month for 12 episodes a month. And then I have another account for another thing I'm doing that's $5 a month. But every one delivers perfectly. They're totally optimized for big files, big audio files. And what they do is they give you a thing called an RSS feed. You don't have to know what that is exactly, but it's a link is all it is. And then you sign up for all the places like Spotify and iHeartRadio and, Podbean, all these places, SoundCloud that host podcasts or have podcasts. And all you do is you sign up once and then you put all that into Libsyn. And then when you upload a podcast, it gets distributed automatically to all those places. Okay. So you don't have to do any extra work. And it's like I said, you could probably start as little as $5 a month. I mean, crazy to try to circumvent that system that's designed for this and makes you look good. Okay. Let's see. Okay, next thing is a website. Like you may want to have a dedicated website for this. I have screwthecommute.com. It's become really the whole thing for me lately. But you can have a podcast player. I think we use Simple Podcast Press. And it has a picture. You can put a picture of the guest or me or the little screwy logo guy and the title, and they can click play and they can fast forward and rewind. And I think they can download there from everything. So, and another cool thing that it does is it puts a timestamp. So if you heard a part of the podcast and you say, oh man, he was talking about so-and-so, you can go into the show notes and there's a timestamp next to what I was talking about. And you don't have to listen to the whole thing again to go back and hear that part you really wanted. Very cool. And cheap. Okay, so the next thing is your basic show notes. So this is where I do farm this out to Larry. He's done almost 700 episodes now. And what he does is he uploads the audio to a transcription service that's $5 per recorded hour. I never paid less than $60 an hour in the US and $30 an hour in the Philippines. Now it's $5 an hour. And if you're interested in that, email me at we've been having some email troubles lately, so do tomantion@gmail.com and I'll send you my affiliate link to this place. But boy, at $5 per recorded hour is just crazy. And it's back in 10 minutes. That's the crazy. It's machine done. And it's about 93 to 95% accurate if you speak, normally. And then those show notes are put at the bottom of each. That's the basic show notes, but the full transcript, you have to opt in to get it. So it builds my email list. So that's clear at the bottom of the show notes. You can say, hey, want the full transcript? Click here. and then they opt in and they get the full everything that was said on that podcast. Okay. Now, during the episode, you still want to offer a freebie to get them to opt in to your list, because people come from all over to listen to podcasts, and you want, or if you saw my session yesterday on email marketing and the one before on the 3-prong attack on internet, email was where the money is. So you want to get them the heck off there onto email. Okay, let's see. And you can promote your podcast all kinds of places, on your car, business cards, um, QR codes, or those crazy little dot things that you can get free QR code generators and paste them on flyers and things like that and put them in your books. Now, I am going to suggest, I think I suggested in one of the other sessions, but we use this all the time. It's a plugin for WordPress called Pretty Links. And what it is it takes a humongous, crazy looking link and makes it something reasonable looking. So I think I gave the thing yesterday. If I said screwthecommute.com/viral, well, it might be some really long link, but it's converted automatically into a pretty link that I can say easily on a podcast. See, so you want to have that available. That's why you can put your affiliate links for your when you're on podcast guesting, or if you want to promote something as an affiliate. You can't say on your podcast, okay, go to xyz.com/BFAF equals 5247. You can't do that. See, so pretty links get you out of that, and you can make a lot of money because those pretty links are accepted everywhere. If you try to put affiliate links in Facebook ads and Facebook postings and Kindle ebooks and things like that, you won't even get accepted. See, they'll delete them, or they'll make them non-functional. See, so pretty links is a great way to get out of this, make a lot of money because of pretty links. Okay, you can put the signature files in your emails to promote your podcast, and I want to tell you now. I'm going to tell you now how I got invited to the White House. Okay, and also I'm going to tell you this Facebook hack at the same time. I'll start with the Facebook hack. So I used to teach people when they wanted to, and this word is kind of harsh, infiltrate. All right, let's say get in front of people in particular Facebook groups, because there's a lot of people in their target market there. So I used to teach them, used to is the key word. I used to teach them to join the group, be reasonable, comment on things. Don't be an idiot. Don't promote yourself, because you'll get kicked out, if you start overly promoting yourself off the bat. And then if you're lucky, people will click over to your profile and see who you are, and maybe somebody will buy something someday. All right. That's the way it used to be. But now, since I got a podcast, I came up with a new method. I'm pretty sure I invented it, because I never heard anybody talking like this until I brought it out. So now I'd say, no, forget about joining the group. Go and offer to interview the admin or the leader of the group. Make them look good, and guess where they're going to put the podcast? All right. They're going to put it in the group, and now you're in front of everybody. All right. And this works for groups that, and the way I got invited to the White House is coming up next. But I couldn't even have joined the group that I'm going to tell you about right now, because it's for veterans, and I'm not a veteran. I love veterans. I give discounts in my school for veterans. I have September's Vetpreneur Month on the podcast. I love, my dad was in the cavalry, I mean, so yeah, I love military, and I needed to get in front of a bunch of military because my school has a scholarship program from the Department of Defense for military spouses. All right, so I need to get in front of veterans. So I interviewed this guy that led this 15,000 member veterans group, and we hit it off like crazy. I mean, he's a Bronze Star winner. He's a badass. My history is I've kind of a badass, been in gunfights and knife fights and bikers trying to kill me and all kinds of stuff. So I got a brutal self-defense website, and so we just hit it off. And so I made him look great. He puts the interview in front of this 15,000 membership group. And besides that, he says, hey, these entrepreneur veterans really need some help. Would you do some training sessions for them? Oh, let me think about it. Yeah. So I did a series of training sessions, got rave reviews. And so here's where it got invited to the White House. So one of the people that heard my sessions was the military spouse of the year at Fort Bragg. And she got in touch with me and she said, look, I got connections at the White House because Mrs. Pence from the last administration, that was her thing, was military spouse employment. So she got me invited to the White House to talk to the office of the vice president about about military spouse employment. And I also got invited to speak at the Military Influencers Conference in Washington, D.C., where I had no business speaking, and I got rave reviews there. See, and now I have lifelong friends and colleagues in the veteran community. And again, September is always Vetpreneur Month. I interview them. So that's how I got invited to the White House. But the Facebook hack is what did it, was to interview the admin, and then they put the interview in front of the group. Now, here's some really cool gems before we pack it in here. There's a widget called Speak Pipe, SPEAKPIPE, Speak Pipe. And what it is, it allows people to leave a voicemail on your website. Now, if you go to screwthecommute.com, there's a little blue thing down in the edge, and you click on it, it says leave Tom a voicemail or something like that. You click on it, you can talk right into your computer or laptop or cell phone, leave me a voicemail. I get an email that says, hey, you got a voicemail. So I click on it, I can listen to it, and then I can respond back to you through voice, and you'll get an email that says, hey, Tom just responded to you. Right? And it's like dirt cheap. It's like almost nothing. So that's a cool thing in itself to have on your website. However, here's another way to use it for podcasting. So I was doing an episode on insurance, business insurance. Well, I got plenty of business insurance, but I am not an expert on business insurance. So I went to a business insurance Facebook group. And what did I do? I interviewed the admin, but I didn't interview him. He didn't have time. So I said, well, hey, you can promote yourself like crazy, but give me 3 minutes of tips on buying business insurance, and just record it into that SpeakPipe thing. So he did it. And then I just took the recording and edited it into my podcast. So I said, hey, I got this insurance guy. He's really big shot, leads a big insurance group. He's going to give us some tips on business insurance. And then I just hit play and played it. And then I did the same thing in the same episode for a big insurance executive at a big insurance association. Same thing. She recorded 3 minutes on the SpeakPipe. I just edited it in. All right. So very cool way. And you can also use the same thing for shout outs. Like for instance, I might say, hey, give me a shout out. Anybody listening to this summit, go over to screwthecommute.com, leave me a shout out on what you learned and how you enjoyed the summit. And don't forget to put your website and where you're from and everything, so that we give you a shout out back. Stuff like that. I think they're going to start showing up. So when people are watching it. So it gives you free publicity. It edifies what I'm trying to do here to help you. And everybody wins for a little, online widget like that. That's SpeakPipe. Also, we started a Patreon for my podcast, so that and all the money other than the Patreon fees is going to fund my scholarships for persons with disabilities. So we have this GoFundMe account for them and a scholarship fund, because I've always known that what I know is great for people with disabilities and mobility problems. 2 of the people are blind that are in the program. And because they can not only legitimately study from home in my school, they can legitimately be hired from home. And they're, currently the suicide rates are 4 times the average in the disabled community. The depression rates is about the same. The unemployment rates are skyrocketing. So I want to help do something about this. And I also took a grant writing course so that as soon as I prove this concept that I can get these people hired and or in their own business, I'm going to roll it out big to foundations and corporations. And if anybody has any leads to give me on that, I'd be appreciated. Okay. So next thing I want to tell you about is making money with your podcast and why sponsorship is a waste of time. See, most people start out their podcast, and I think the average quits after 8 episodes. We just hit 700. And the first one was profitable. And here's why. Let me tell you first why sponsorship is ridiculous. Well, sponsors pay average between $12 and $18 per 1,000 downloads per episode. It is hard to get 1,000 downloads per episode. It's hard to get 1,000 downloads at all. All right. So you won't make any money for months and months and months if you're lucky. All right. And still, when you're a little person and have hardly, any downloads, they don't even want to talk to you. Why would they waste their 12 to 18 bucks on you? They can go somewhere else. All right. So that's why it's a waste of time and it's very discouraging to go for sponsorship. So I'm saying be your own sponsor, have your own digital products, your own consulting, your own whatever. I have all these different Fatso Tennis, Brutal Self-Defense, my school, my mentor program, various, 25 different ebooks and things that can bring money in at high profit margin. See, so be your own sponsor. And so you can be profitable from your first episode. If you can get 20, 30, 50 people on the first episode and sell one ebook, you made more than you would have made in a year worth of trying to get 1,000 downloads per episode. Right. So that's why sponsorship is a waste of time. All right. Let's see. I think I covered the other stuff. That's the biggest money-making thing is now if you get loads and loads and loads, if you hit it big with millions of downloads, that's different because you'll make a very significant amount of money just for a 30-second or 15-second mention of some other company. I'm okay with that, but to shoot for that from the beginning is crazy. And I still don't want it because I'd rather have somebody pay the tuition to my school, join my mentor program, buy all, my digital products, online courses, and all this stuff. So that's how you become profitable right off the bat. Okay, so that's podcasting from the guesting standpoint to the having a podcast standpoint. And you could pay, I don't know, some people charging $5,000 for what I just told you. All right, so and a lot of them don't even know all the stuff I just told you. So glad you could stop by the summit today. Make sure you listen to all the other great speakers on the summit. Tomorrow, I will be doing the pro speaking masterclass where you'll get just as many super gems on how I've made millions speaking. So I will catch you tomorrow.